Hey everyone, Scotty here, and boy do I have a surprise for you. This is my first rankings video, and it is on the Friday the 13th franchise. But before we get started, if you like what you see, comment and like on this video, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. So everyone knows that the Friday the 13th franchise is known for its clever, inventive kills, and as well as TNA. But why don't we find out which one is the best of the best and the worst of the worst out of the franchise, right? But before we start, let me tell you the golden rule. There's a golden rule on this channel for the ranking video, and that is, these are my rankings. Meaning, these are my personal opinions, and they might vary and differ from yours. So if you have any difference of opinions on where your rankings lie and why, leave it in the comment section below. Now how about you join me into my studio, and, well, the other studio I shall say, and let's get into the rankings. See you there. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So number 12 on the Friday the 13th rankings is Jason X. So why is Jason X the lowest on my list? Well, it had its fair share of comedic aspects of it, and it has some very inventive kills, and I mean, we all love androids such as KM14, and of course Uber Jason. But it's just, Jason in space doesn't settle well. It's not your typical Friday the 13th movie, don't you say? So that's why this is, number 12 on my list. And a lot of people really don't care for it. And a main reason why Jason X was even made is because they were waiting for Freddy vs. Jason to get out of developmental hell. And, I mean, they wanted Jason to be relevant. So in order to keep him relevant, they came out with this movie. So yeah, Jason X deserves the last on my list, if you would say. Jason takes a boat. Or Jason takes Vancouver. Sorry, it's actually number 11 on my list, Jason Takes Manhattan, Friday the 13th Part 8. If you're wondering why I said Jason Takes a Boat or Jason Takes Vancouver, for those that are fans of the franchise, you already know. 3/4 of the film, basically Jason is killing everybody on a yacht on their way to New York City. And then the other quarter of it is Jason in Vancouver, that is set to look like New York City. And there's some cool shots where Jason, sees his mask on a billboard, the hockey goalie, and even some inventive kills, like when he punches Julius's head right off his shoulders and right into a dumpster on top of the building in New York City. I even like the cool shot of Times Square. But Jason Takes Manhattan needed its proper budget to be fully filmed, or even a little bit of it on a boat would be fine, but it needed the New York City vibe. And they had a lot going on in original works of the script. They had things like the Empire State Building and, Madison Square Garden included, but that was all nixed because of budget reasons. So that's why this movie just didn't, sit well with me and is number 11 on this list. Also, if you think about it, Jason at the end turning into a boy and that whole dog, creeping up to pretend to be Jason and it was really the dog and a reunion, we all know that wasn't good at all. And, this movie had its potential, but with the budgetary constraints and, Jason also looking like a frickin' Muppet from Manhattan, I mean, this movie just was overall a mess. And then not to mention how they made New York City look like a complete and utter dump. I mean, where they, had toxic waste flooding the sewers every night at midnight. I mean, we know how unrealistic that really is. And then they have the whole thugs thing, they really emphasize how New York is this dangerous ghetto place when it really isn't that bad that the movie portrayed it to be. But yeah, so Jason Takes Manhattan has to be number 11 on this list. Alright? Number 10 on my list is Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. Now, I personally like this film, but a lot of people don't, and I can understand why. Which is why it's number 10 on my list and not the last one on my list. So we're introduced to an FBI agent that is masquerading as a camper at Camp Crystal Lake. And it turns out she gets Jason blown to smithereens. A lot of people do think she's the final girl, but she really isn't. But yeah, anyways, Jason gets transported to the morgue after being blown up, and his demonic possessed black heart is eaten by the coroner. That turns that coroner into Jason himself. With that being said, we start a whole new plot line that the franchise has never seen before, which is a body switching one. So every time Jason possesses somebody, they turn into Jason. Superhuman strength, immortality, and all that different stuff. This is not your typical Friday the 13th movie, which is why it is lower on my rank. I mean, it's got some cool things like Joey B and Creighton Duke, but a lot of it is really subpar. but it is a unique entry into the franchise, but it is nowhere near the best. And I personally like it and enjoy it and can watch it, but it definitely doesn't deserve to be even near the top of this ranking. Number 9 is Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. So Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning is not the greatest in the list, obviously where it's ranked on this ranking, but I personally enjoy it. Ethel and Junior were hilarious. Melanie Kinnaman was gorgeous as always, a very high body count. However, the reason why a lot of people don't like it is because they expected to see Jason Voorhees again on the big screen, and they got Roy Burns, a paramedic, a very, very minor character in the film, and he was impersonating Jason. Because Jason, as everyone knows, and we'll get into it a little bit later, was really killed off in Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. But they didn't bring him back. They took the franchise in a new direction, and it didn't work the way that they hoped. And they just milked it for what it was worth, and it just wasn't what it could have been. And that's why we had to rank it very low on the ranking, because it just, like, Roy Burns, come on, he shouldn't have been Jason. They should have, if they wanted to go in a new direction, they should have had Tommy Jarvis do it. I mean, for real, like, the ending of Friday the 13th Part 4, Tommy Jarvis should have been the one impersonating Jason, if anything at all. But, with that being said, that's why this has to rank number 9 on the rankings of Friday the 13th movies in the franchise. Number 8 on my list is the 2009 reboot, Friday the 13th. Now, I'm personally not a fan of reboots, especially the 2010 A Nightmare on Elm Street, and even Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2 from 2007 and 2009 respectively. However, I am a pretty big fan of this one. I really do enjoy it. It's pretty fun. Very long cold open, where, Jason kills everybody. And then we get introduced to a whole new set of people, which Chewie and Lawrence of the group I really enjoy. It starts off with this is Voorhees being decapitated and Jason seeing that. So we get Jason with both the burlap sack and the hockey mask, which is, the best of both worlds. And there's some pretty cool jump scenes, Oh, sorry about that. I forgot to tell you I was going to show you that clip. But yeah, that is pretty cool, isn't it? So yeah, I really enjoy this entry into the franchise, and it is pretty scary. So to me, it's one of my favorites, and it's definitely one of my favorite reboots. But I think it deserves this spot on the list. Number 7 on the list is a movie that all fans have been waiting to see for 10 years. Freddy vs. Jason. This movie, character development was piss poor, if I'm being honest. However, the battle between two slasher icons in Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees was killer. No pun intended. But we got to see Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund obviously played him, and Jason Voorhees, played by Ken Kersinger. Too bad it wasn't Kane Hodder, but we had to pick our battles. It was a great battle between two slasher icons. I mean, I couldn't ask for more. It was very cool, very bloody. It was great. It really was. And of course, it was a draw, to an extent. I mean, it depends who you ask. I mean, Freddy was decapitated, and Jason did fall in the lake, but he came out holding Freddy's head. However, the head wins. I mean, But the character development was kind of piss poor, and, it just, I don't know, you don't care about the teams, but why are we there for the teams? We're not. We're there for Freddy and Jason, right? I mean, I think number 7 on this list is pretty reasonable for this, if I might say so myself. Number 6 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now, I personally like this movie. It has a lot of sentimental value to me because it is the first film I actually watched, shall I say horror film that I watched, at 5 years old. And this got me into being a horror fan. So, the fact that this movie is this high on the list is more of a sentimental value to me, and a lot of people will rank it a lot lower. So don't hold that against me. I mean, I had to watch all of them from the beginning, from start to finish, after seeing this movie. So this movie originally was supposed to be Freddy vs. Jason, but because of the developmental hell that franchise was in with two sides and the companies not wanting to agree on rights, we end up getting Carrie vs. Jason, with Tina being Carrie, so to speak, with her telekinetic powers. With the film's death scenes, they had really cool scenes, and they could have really been amped up if the MPAA did not cut a lot of the gore out of the movie, which I thought was very, very poor taste. And I think that Nick being in it, he shouldn't have been in it. And if they wanted to keep him in it, then they should have killed him off. He had no reason to survive this movie, I mean, let's be honest. And the associate producer, Barbara Sachs, deciding to veto the director, John Carbuckler's vision on putting the dad that died at the beginning of the movie at the end and not making him a zombie, even though he was in a watery grave for over a decade. She should be fired because he looked like he was literally in a coal mine for 24 hours at the most. But overall, pretty good movie. You know, it's got its diversified characters, it's got its nerd, its stoner, its hooker, you know, stuff like that. So I think that the movie in general is not that bad. So I think it deserves where I ranked it. We are in the top 5 of the rankings, and coming in at number 5 is Friday the 13th Part 3. That's right, this is the only film in the franchise that came out in 3D. So Friday the 13th Part 3 is actually a really, really good movie, in my opinion, and this is where Jason gets his hockey mask. Woohoo! And then, of course, we have the prankster Shelly, which is a lot of comedic relief, which is really fun. The biker gang was really cool, and I think that some of the poor taste of things was Debbie being pregnant, because I think they kind of forgot about her being pregnant. I think they added that in there, that line in there, because when they killed her off, it's like they killed an unborn child as well. But they didn't really go anywhere with that. And I think Debbie being the final girl would have been a lot better, because imagine having the very first pregnant final girl in the franchise. That would have been killer. But overall, it was a pretty good movie. Like I said, Jason got his mask, and how freaking cool is that? And overall, I think it's a pretty decent film, and I really enjoy it. And Richard Brooker did a really good job portraying the role of Jason. But overall, I think, you know, it was halfway decent, and I think that the 3D effects, you know, kind of subpar. And I mean, if you watch the movie now, you need a special 3D TV, you need the glasses, and I mean the yo-yo, the popcorn, and everything else that they did with the 3D effects. It doesn't really do anything for the movie when you watch it in standard edition now. But overall, I enjoyed the movie, and I think it deserves to be in the top 5. Number 4 on my list is Where It All Began, 1980's original Friday the 13th film. Now, this movie is great. It's got, obviously, that 1980s campy vibe, which is very nostalgic to me. And then it also, you know, has the iconic Betsy Palmer in it as Mrs. Voorhees. It's got that mystery horror theme to it because, as screenwriter Victor Miller said in various interviews, Jason is dead. He drowned as a boy. There is no Jason Voorhees. There was no sequel plan, no nothing. So we had Mrs. Voorhees doing the killing, and she was revealed near the end of the movie. Nobody knew who the killer really was, which is really cool. Like I said, it's got that 80s campy vibe, which is awesome. I love 80s horror slasher movies. And then, of course, the downside of things is they actually killed a snake on set, which is kind of a little touchy for me because I don't like seeing animals get harmed even snakes. But I think it was actually a very clever movie. It was pretty scary. The ending jump scare was pretty cool, where Jason, as a boy, jumped out of the lake and pulled Alice down, which kind of set up a sequel, you know, without them having a sequel in mind. But overall, this movie definitely deserves to be in the top 5. If not for its storytelling, character development, and really cool, you know, SFX and death scenes, definitely because it's where it all began, and this is the reason why Friday the 13th is what it is today. Please do not kill me for this. Please do not kill me for this. But yes, that is right. Number 3 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. I know you are probably typing in the comments right now, criticizing and crucifying me for this listing on my ranking. And let me explain myself. It is a very fun movie, and it was so hard to pick my top 3. All of them deserve to be number 1, and if this was not a rankings video, all of them would be tied for number 3. But this movie has a reason why I chose to make it number 3. And that is because of Paula. She did not deserve to die. She did not have premarital sex. She did not do drugs. She was a very nice lady, very great woman, very good camper, and she took care of the children at the camp. But she got killed, and to me, she did everything right, and she still got killed off. So I had to put her on this movie on number 3. Overall, this movie I think is very fun. It has the theme to old classic monster cinema, which, you know, had references to Frankenstein, which is really cool. It had very, very good rock music by Alice Cooper, which is a lot of fun. It had very clever death scenes. The first and only movie in the Friday the 13th franchise to have children at the camp. And, of course, Megan was a pretty good final girl, but let's be honest, it wasn't about Megan in this movie. It was more about Tommy Jarvis getting his comeuppance against Jason Voorhees all these years later. But overall, I enjoyed this movie, and I'm sorry I didn't put it on number 1, but to me, this is number 3, and there are 2 more films, in my opinion, that I personally like better. Number 2 on my list is Friday the 13th Part 2. Now, this is the sequel that wasn't supposed to happen, technically, according to Victor Miller and Sean S. Cunningham, but it did, and it gave us an introduction to Jason Voorhees himself, albeit without the hockey mask. Instead, he had the burlap sack. Now, this movie is actually pretty cool, and they actually had the balls to kill off a guy in a wheelchair. I mean, that's actually pretty cool for, being in the early 1980s. I mean, very controversial, but very ballsy. And I thought it was actually interesting how they did that. Overall, the movie was really good, and it had a great chase scene between Ginny and Jason Voorhees. And in my opinion, this would be number 1 on my list. But there's one movie better, and there is one major reason why. And that reason is the ending. That's right, if you've seen this movie and watched the ending, you know exactly what I mean. They left the fate of Paul left to be unknown. And if you watch Friday the 13th Part 3, Abel, he found an eyeball, and he said there were other body parts in the woods. According to Friday the 13th theoretician, Troy Elke, hi Troy, sorry I had to give you a shout out, I interviewed him for my podcast Slasher Scotty, which can be seen on this channel. He stated that those body parts belong to Paul, which is a pretty good theory in my opinion. I think I'm going to take that and run with it. But overall, in the movie itself, if there was no part 3, you don't know what happened to Paul. It was a very confusing ending with the fate of Paul left to be unknown. Of course, they killed off Muffin too, and then Muffin returns at the end, which makes you think was that a dream as well. So that's the main reason why I couldn't put that as the top of this list. But overall, very good movie, amazing final girl. Probably my favorite final girl in the franchise is Ginny Field, aka Amy Steele. So I really enjoyed this movie, so number 2 is where it ranks. But stay tuned because number 1 is about to be revealed. Here we are at the number 1 entry on the Friday the 13th rankings, and it is Friday the 13th Part 4, the final chapter. Now, everyone knows this is the movie that was supposed to end the franchise. However, as everyone also knows, it did not end the franchise because, well, there's problems in the whole franchise in general, and this is the 4th entry. But they did kill Jason. They officially killed Jason in this movie, hands down. There's no way around it. They killed Jason. As you can tell in Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning, there was no Jason. And then in Part 6, they resurrected him with a lightning bolt. So, yes, in Part 4, they killed Jason off. And this is also the introduction to Tommy Jarvis, who was also in the next 2 movies after this as well. And he was played by child actor Corey Feldman. This movie is by far my favorite of the franchise, and here's the reason why. Jason Voorhees is the scariest Jason out of them all, and he's played by Ted White, who I also interviewed for Slasher Scotty. Check it out, in my interview sections on this channel. You won't regret it. But he is the scariest Jason. The way he ran after Trish Jarvis and was so close to catching her and wasn't that far behind when he was chasing her, it was amazing. And of course, the death scenes were very cool. From Samantha's impalement through the raft to Paul getting spear gunned up the groin, and of course, Crispin Glover's Jimmy getting the corkscrew in the hand and then the cleaver in the face, which is all really cool. I mean, a piss poor death scene is Rob Dyer's scene where he ended up, all you hear is, "Help, he's killing me! Help, he's killing me!" I mean, it was supposed to be a psychological kill, not a visual one, but it missed the mark. But I'll let it slide because this movie is very good, especially with this character development. The character development was amazing. I mean, absolutely amazeballs. I mean, you cannot say that these characters are unrelatable. They are very cool. They have a lot of development to them, which is great. And of course, I love the death scene with one of the twins, where she gets thrown out of the window and onto a car that explodes, which is actually very badass. But like I said, this movie is by far my favorite of the franchise. So yes, there you have it. The Friday the 13th rankings by Slasher Scotty himself. So before we end this video, let's do a little bit of business work. But come and join me into my other studio. I'll see you there, alright? Be good people. Hey everyone, thank you for staying and enjoying my Friday the 13th rankings. Now, of course, I'm Slasher Scotty, and this is my first video, so the green screen might have not cooperated completely, but I mean, this is my first video, and I'm still getting used to the whole production thing. So stay with me as I improve, and things will get better, I promise. Now, if you like what you saw, please comment, tell us if you agreed, disagreed, and why. And also, don't forget to like the video if you like what you saw. And, of course, hit the bell notification icon if you want to keep updated on all of the videos that I release. And you have to love this channel. I mean, horror, everything. So don't forget to slash that subscribe button. And, of course, Jason Voorhees, I'm sure he himself really enjoyed these power rankings. And, I mean, if he didn't, I'm sure he would come after me, right? And I don't see Jason anywhere here, do you? I mean, what's that noise? What's that noise? Oh my god. That can't be Jason. Is that? Oh my god, it's Jason coming. Oh my god, oh my god!